What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we are back with another amazing Naruto story. What if Naruto was replaced by his sister so he burned the Shinobi system to the ground? If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments. And also check the description box to original creator for this beautiful creation. Snow swirled all around, it danced in between the forests as if it were alive. It turned the trees to ice and dumped more white crystals onto the ground. Icicles hung from various places, and the winter sun would shine through the ice, creating a beautiful illusion. It was dead silent in the beautiful, enchanted woods. However, two high-pitched wails soon pierced through the air. Birds quickly fluttered, disturbed by the foreign noise that was rarely heard in their home. The view switches and suddenly, in a small clearing where the snow had melted into a small circle were two babies. They were abandoned, for no one was around to help the pitiful creatures. The said humans were twins, one was a girl, the other, a boy. The baby girl had bright red hair, with darker red and gold streaks running through her curling short hair. Her skin was pale, and while her eyes were closed for the moment, when they would open you would see the most beautiful shade of green you ever saw. The boy on the other hand, had short, blonde spikes for his hair with dark red streaks running through. His eyes were opened, and he had calmed down for he sensed and saw something nearby. His reaction to whatever it was a happy gurgle. His own gorgeous sapphire blue eyes lit up with happiness at the fluffy creature in front of him. A white she-wolf looked deep into the young human's eyes and she liked what she saw. Another wolf, this time a tawny she-wolf, walked up to the young girl and gently picked her up by the blanket she was wrapped in. The white wolf picked up the boy by his blanket, and the two wolves carried their cargo into the surrounding darkness, deeper into the woods. Meanwhile, back in a nearby village, the leader of Konohagakure was furious. He had just recently caught wind of the village's orphanage being burned down. Where are they? Kami, help me, if no one finds those two babies I will burn this god-forsaken village down along with every single idiot in it. He roared, and the village quaked with his statement. Every villager was frightened for their life, for they knew exactly why the Hokage was so pissed off. This year, on October 10th, a large monster attacked. Its name was Kyuubi no Kitsune, and it was a great fox demon. It ravaged the town, and many had died. In a desperate attempt to save his home, the recently deceased fourth Hokage took a newborn baby and sealed the great demon into the babe. In fact, which is a fact barely anyone knows, is that the baby was his own son, Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. However, he wasn't the only baby born that night. A girl was born, Naruto's sister, Yasuragi Uzumaki Namikaze. However, as Naruto was the older, the desperate Hokage took his only son. Although he was no fool, he had hoped that the village would treat his son as a hero. But instead, they viewed not only Naruto a demon, but Yasuragi one as well since she was his twin. Their mother had disappeared, leaving her two children alone and unprotected in the world. This had enraged the elderly Hokage greatly, for he had thought he knew Kushina. However, he now saw that he misjudged her character greatly. Recently, the past months had been torture. Not only did Sarutobi have to reclaim his title as third Hokage and continue his duties, but he had to watch out and babysit the twins as well. He had felt as if he couldn't trust anyone in the village, and he had been right. Despite the danger of facing the Hokage, many assassins had tried to kill the defenseless babies, and many had tried so in public while people cheered. Even with the Hokage right there. Soon, people figured out that their leader was on the demon's sides and secretly tried to kill off the babes, but Sarutobi expected that and stopped those attacks as well. However, he thought he could trust the orphanage. Surely, an elderly couple who took care of orphan kids would be nice to the twins. Obviously, he had misjudged character again. He saw how they treated them, and before he could act, someone burned the orphanage down in an attempt to kill the poor creatures. When he finally found out, the day after, his investigation team discovered it had been the couple themselves, who blamed the fire on the babies, saying how the twin brats tried to kill them. That's it, no more, he said, his heart clenched in shame and guilt. It was his fault that the twins were now dead. Hokage-sama, one of his most faithful shinobi, tried to speak, but nothing came out. It was too sad of a day to try and cheer someone up. I tried, and I failed. It's my fault because I was foolish and believed that the villagers of this town had the will of fire in them, and that they were pure. However, they couldn't see past the fact that Kyubi was sealed inside the boy to protect this village. He was a hero, and she was his sister. His defenseless little sister. They were just babies, human and pure. No more, Kakashi. I'm done being nice. They wanted a demon, now they have one. His voice rang throughout the village through a speaker system. Everyone had heard his speech, and now people felt both fear and shame. Who were they to make two defenseless babies demons? They now realized that it wasn't the babies who were monsters. No, it was them. And now it was too late. I failed to protect the fourth Hokage's children. With that last shocking sentence, the village would experience a new type of leadership, the cruel and tough kind. After the incident, Sarutobi would no longer be the kind professor everyone thought he was. No, now he punished them mercilessly. All because of a simple misunderstanding. A large pack of wolves were circled around two tiny babies. The exact same babies we saw earlier. All the wolves were growling, yapping, and communicating with each other. Finally, the white she-wolf stepped up, and she barked at the others and all became quiet. You can tell that this female was the lead dog. Since we cannot understand wolf language, we will translate it so you can hear what they are saying. Quiet. It is not so difficult a concept to understand. I am taking these pups into my care. Nevertheless, they are human and one smells like Gakido. He is our great cousin, so it is only natural to help his host, and his host's sister. The silver wolf explained, and whines were heard. Muzai, this is a dangerous task. If the humans hear that two human pups are seen with our pack, they'll know. A black and brown male wolf growled, and Muzai snapped back. Fool, they abandoned them. Because of the young lad having Gakido sealed inside him, and the lass is his twin. Because of their relation to each other, they view her as much as a demon as he. This time growls were replies. Some of them were heard saying these. Foolish ninja, they throw one of their own defenseless in a winter like this? I say we go and teach them a lesson. Surely someone had to have cared for these pups? What about them? Silence. Yes, someone had cared for these pups, but not good enough. Tate and I were called by a human, and asked us to look after them. After much thought, we agreed. And wolves to not go back on their words. She yelled the last part out and she was greeted with howls. In return, she howled back, louder, longer, and more emotional than the rest. They kept it up for a while, until finally they calmed down. But how will we care for them? Surely you don't think you can raise them by yourself with the help of a ninja, a human? Muzai looked at the one who had spoken, Blaz. I can, and I will. If it comes to help, I will require the service of the one who called me. I will ask them to find a human female to help us. I doubt it will come to that, however. She sniffed the air, and shook her head. Enough of this. My mind is made up and none of you will change it. I am the pack leader, my word is law. Finally, all arguments came to an end. Whatever decision their leader made, they knew it was a sound idea. She was wise and had gotten them through dark times. Our human contact had told us their human names were Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, the lad, and Yasuragi Uzumaki Namikaze, his young sister. However, their wolf clan names will be Sandalio and Ulrika of the Hellwolf tribe. A loud cheer went up and Muzai looked at her new human pups and smiled, or what wolves saw as a smile. Humans would see it as a baring of teeth, and any who saw this sight would have thought she was going to eat the babies. But no, to the wolves, it was a gesture of motherly love. Sandalio and Ulrika turned out to be a challenge for the clan to raise. In the beginning it was easier because they could drink the wolf milk, and wolves would cuddle around the babies so they wouldn't freeze. Of course, it all got harder the older they grew. Soon it wasn't milk they needed, but food. And since they were growing, more wolves would be needed to keep them warm during winter. During other months, it was no problem because nights would be variably warm. Food was the more worrisome issue, though. They couldn't feed a human baby raw meat for obvious reason, and they couldn't just live off plants. Soon, Muzai was forced to call in her human. Muzai walked towards a small clearing where there was a crystal pond with a waterfall flowing into it. She looked into the water, and touched her nose in it. Closing her eyes, she concentrated. Soon, a shadowy figure looked back at her. Hello again, Muzai. Having trouble I presume? Joked a male voice. Muzai growled. Obviously, or I would not have called you, it's about food. They're starting to grow too old for just milk. They need human food, which is something we don't exactly have in full supply. She heard a sigh. Yeah, I figured this would happen. Well, let's see. I'll send some of my people down to help you out, okay? The wolf nodded with relief. Thank you. No problem. It should be me thanking you, after all. Now, I have to go. I have to schedule another meeting, which I know the whole organization hates. Hee hee. I love to make their lives miserable. You're a weird human, was all the she-wolf said as the image faded away. Glad that the whole situation was settled, she went to arrange a clan meeting of her own. Maybe humans and animals weren't so different after all? She chuckled at the thought and left the clearing. MERRYCHRISTMASHAPPYNEWYEARS. So, 4 people need to go care for 2 brats? I'm out, said a blond man, who had a cigarette in his mouth. Several people sighed, and there were a few giggles heard. I'll go. I'm bored as hell anyway. I'd be fun teaching pyromania to the 2. Grinned a redhead whose hair cascaded down his back in spikes. His green eyes glittered. 1 down, 3 more spots to fill, said the leader, who was standing in front of the crowd. Hey, I'll go, yelled a blonde-haired girl, who was jumping up and down. She was barely clothed, as her shirt was a simple bathing top, and her shorts were short. It appeared she had on a matching bottom piece underneath her shorts. Great, we have a pyromaniac and a hyperactive girl so far to help raise and teach the poor kids. Sighed someone and others agreed. Well, if someone responsible wants to help as well, we have 2 more spots to fill. I'll go, came the immediate and quiet response, cutting the leader off at the end. A pale man in a tattered red cape, with long and pretty black hair. Of course it also stuck up in some places, but it had the look of purposely mess-up hairstyle. His ebony eyes looked at the leader who nodded. Who else? I'll go as well, came a feminine voice. It came from a scantily dressed woman, who was tan and had what seemed like rabbit ears sticking at the top of her head. What clothes she had on pretty much acted as armor, and her long white hair was tied into a high ponytail. Her golden eyes looked back hiding all emotions. All right, that's it. Axel, Riku, Vincent, and Fran. You 4 are now the twins' caretakers, teachers, and human family. Don't worry for those of you who wanted to go. You'll all end up meeting them, but that's for another time. For now, you 4 get your things ready. You leave tomorrow. The 4 nodded and walked out. The leader kept the others, however, to talk about more things. CROSSOVERSROCK. Biwahahahaha. So, what did he say? Asked Tate, as she saw her best friend appear out of the trees. The air was warm, and some wolves were watching the twins so Tate and Muzai could have a break. He's sending some humans to help with the care and teachings of Sandalio and Ulrika. Her eyes softened at the twins' names. Already they held a special place in the leader's heart. That's a relief. With their help we can get another source of warmth for them during the winter and they can go into town for whatever humans need. Tate grinned a wolf grin and Muzai smiled back at her friend. Okay, now that that's all done, what do you say of us going hunting? I heard there a couple of juicy-looking deer passed by earlier. The white wolf looked back, grinning. Hell yeah. She suddenly looked years younger as she raced her lifelong friend into the forests. LETSSEEWHATSGOINGONATKONOHA. In the nearby town of Konoha, no one dared to speak about the incident that haunted thousands. Sarutobi had cracked down hard on the village. He found, interrogated, and killed all those found guilty of harming, harassing Naruto. Few were found innocent. Those that were innocent were Kakashi, several Anbu and other ninja, Uruka Amino, the Inazukas, some of the Hyugas and Uchihas, Abaramis, Akamichis, Sarutobis, Naras, Yamanakas, and a few civilians. Of course, Sarutobi couldn't kill the entire village so he spared many. Those that lived soon changed over a new leaf. They swore that if somehow the 2 babies had lived, were saved by someone and just taken away, they swore they wouldn't treat them horribly. Sarutobi placed all sorts of new laws on Konoha. He paid no heed to the council. No matter what they thought, they held no power over the Hokage, though they liked to think they did. Especially that Danzo. Danzo. One of the more scandalous trials were that of the Kaunicle versus the Hokage. Many members had been found guilty, and evidence was stacked against them. Danzo outright admitted it when he was accused, and when Sarutobi ordered him to be killed, Rude Anbu appeared, and they along with Danzo disappeared. Konoha was searched thoroughly. Every nook and cranny, every secret hideout, and the old HQ of Root was found and destroyed. The entrance was sealed forever. Of course, it's been a couple of months since then. It calmed down quiet a bit, but times were harder with the new laws. Anbu were seen everywhere, watching every single person. There was little privacy. There was a curfew and people who disobeyed the rules were imprisoned for a single month. A few rebels had, of course, rebelled at first, but they soon learned their lesson. Of course, people from other villages couldn't say that Konoha were softies now. Ninja training improved, and without the intervention of the council, the tests became harder. This weeded out the weak ninjas, and while it was cruel, it benefited the village. Now with weak ninjas out of the training, stronger ninja would be produced. He also got rid of the ninja rules, as they were called. While it was convenient to have no emotions ruling over you when killing your target, who could very well be innocent, it also proved to cause people to go insane. With the help of his more loyal followers, Sarutobi inserted a program helping to teach the emotionless ninja emotions. The patients mostly consisted of Root members who wanted to be helped, but they contained others as well. Uchihas and Hyugas were sent here, to learn how to not be arrogant asses. That's another thing. With the council out of the way, Fugaku and Hiyashi found they could disarm their own councils. The Hyuga Council and the Uchiha Council were no longer around, and the two could rule their clans more freely. They encouraged their clans to intertwine and to stop being arrogant. It was these aspects that made Konoha be a better place. It was these changes that once again brought hope to Sarutobi's eyes. He cleansed the village and purged it of all its evil. He hoped now that it would prosper into the village his teachers once dreamed of. And maybe now, his two students would come back to help. Sarutobi sighed as he walked away from the window that could see over the east side of the village. He doubted his students would come back, especially after their grandchildren were thought to be dead. He sat at his desk and sifted through the papers without complaint. After this, he would spend time with his own family. He smiled a soft smile that was rare to be seen except around family. His second son had just gotten married to a kind and pretty woman. Of course his first son, Asuma, was still a bachelor, but his eyes turned to the paper that he was currently looking at. Kurenai Yuhi is promoted to Junin, he thought. Maybe Asuma wouldn't be single for long, especially if he was to show Kurenai the ropes. The old man smiled as he signed the paper, granting permission. He could see lots of mini Sarutobis running around Konoha in the near future. Maybe one could even take his place as Hokage one day. With that thought stuck in his head, Sarutobi was stuck in a good mood for the rest of the day. Thatwasfunwasntit. Oh wow, this is pretty deep in the forests. Wondered Riku as she stretched with her arms raised above her. Her blonde hair swayed with her energetic hyperness. We're probably going to have to build some kind of a shelter if we're going to live here the next few years. Came the calm, serious voice of Vincent. His black eyes surveyed all around him, searching for enemies nearby that would be foolish to attack them. Man, that's gonna take work, damn it. Sighed Axel, the redhead of the group, who was snapping his fingers and creating a small flame every time. Stop that, you'll burn the forest down. Fran frowned as she nervously watched the pyro. Since she was a Viera, she was more of an earth-type person, and since she grew up with the forest to protect her, fire made her nervous. Axel scowled, however he stopped nonetheless. I'll stop for now. I'm still teaching them how to summon fire. Fran sighed but nodded. The next few years will be long. It got easier after the humans came. They built a fair shelter that blended into the woods and moved the pups in with them. The wolf tribe moved closer to them also, so that Muzai wouldn't be far from her pups. After all, even with the humans' help they were still her pups. She told them so the day they got here. So with their help, the twins grew amazingly and powerfully. Because of their contact with the demonic wolves so much, some of the demonic energy rubbed off onto Ulrika, turning her into a half-demon. However, whether it was because of the seal or another force, Naruto stayed human. They grew older, and when they got old enough, Axel, Riku, Fran, and Vincent all started to teach them. They grew more powerful, and soon it was realized who should teach who. Ulrika was better at closed-ranged combat, so Axel and Riku were her teachers. The consequences of this was that she adapted to both their personalities. Sandalio, on the other hand, had a personality which was a combination of both Fran and Vincent. It was amazing at how different the two looked and acted, yet you could see the similarities. Ulrika would sometimes completely shut down her emotions just as Sandalio would become hyperactive for a day. Once again, it amazed everyone. To top it all off, the two would either finish each other's sentences or they would speak at the same time. It got on many nerves, so soon the two learned to calm that habit down a bit. They still did it, but not on a regular basis. The twins were also taught by the wolves. Ulrika was taught how to shapeshift, for since she was half demon she could be either wolf, human, or both. Full demons, however, rarely or couldn't transform from their true forms. It was a possibility though difficult. Sandalio was taught how to fight like a wolf, though it was humanized quite a bit. He was also taught to control Kyuubi's chakra, energy so he could be in better control of his powers. The two grew, and they met other people who would visit them. They prospered and many who met them instantly fell in love with them. They were kind-hearted and even to the most cruel person they would give hugs. Well, Ulrika would but Sandalio would settle to just nodding at them or smiling. When Sandalio smiled, it felt like an angel himself was gracing anyone with their presence. His smile showed how much he loved his large family, and how much they meant to him. Ulrika wore her heart on her sleeve, and even though it could get annoying, her personality would intrude and warm itself on the coldest heart. Many chuckled when she first met Sephiroth, a pretty cold-hearted man. It was Sephiroth's turn to go to the settlement and see how the children were progressing. When he got there, he was immediately bombarded by a small person and was knocked over. Xemnas, you're here. OHMYGOSHIMISSEDYOU. I can't wait to show you, wait, you're not Xemnas, and it all went off from there. Now Sephiroth was overly protective of his little sister and brother. It was amazing how much a person could be changed by the two. It's been 11 years since that night where the two wolves found the crying baby, and the twins were still as busy training as ever. Ulrika was currently trying to create a bomb with her fire powers, and all she kept getting was a spark like she always got. She growled with annoyance. This is annoying, can't we just go get sea salt ice cream or something? Sandalio was watching her, amused. His blue eyes glittered, and his arms were crossed as he leaned on a nearby tree. Nope, Axel told me to make sure you didn't get any ice cream until you created a firebomb. It couldn't be that hard. She glared at his figure and he smirked. Bastard, you know you just insulted yourself with that statement. She ignored him and concentrated. It was easy talking about it, but actually making a firebomb was one of the most difficult things she had to create with her fire. It wasn't the shape that was hard, it was the making it blow up part that she couldn't concentrate on it. You know, you suck as a teacher. She stated as he told her to concentrate once again. And you're not concentrating, the 11-year told his twin. Children, do we really need to fight? Came a voice and Ulrika pouted. Uncle Vincent, Sandy's being mean. Her twin sputtered angrily at the name as Vincent rolled his eyes, though the two kids could tell he was amused. I told you not to call me that. You're just mad because you can't come up with something horrible from my name. She stuck her tongue out and then, ignoring both her uncle and brother, she concentrated once more on her task. Seriously, she can create a range of weapons from fire, but this bomb was so persistent and annoying her. Gritting her teeth, she added a bit more air into the bomb than before and all of a sudden she knew she created it. Yelping in surprise she threw it into the air and after 5 seconds there was a small explosion. Ash rained down lightly and all three got covered in it. While two males were annoyed at the mess, one was jumping up and down squealing. I did it, I did it, I did it. She laughed at the expressions of her brother and uncle, clutching her sides. You two look so ridiculous. You should look in a mirror. Haha. However, she suddenly felt it was a smart idea to run as she saw that her brother was stalking towards her angrily. Ah, Mom, Mom. She promptly ran towards the meadow where the others were. She saw Axel laying down enjoying the sun, Riku poking him with a stick, and Fran away a little bit shaking her head at their antics. However, when they heard Ulrika crashing through the forest yelling for Muzai and laughing, Axel jumped up and immediately yelped when the stick poked into his sides hard. Riku jumped back and apologized profusely, however she was knocked down by Ulrika who ran behind the white lead wolf who was watching the whole thing amusedly. Mom, he's trying to kill me, giggled Ulrika with wide eyes. Suddenly Sandalio also ran through the clearing, determined to catch his sister. Now, I'm sure it can't be that bad. Although, what's all over you two? She finally was able to make a bomb. Sandalio was caught off by Axel and Riku. Really, that's great, they chorused, and Riku continued. Now we can show you the second part. And when she threw the bomb in the air to make it explode, the aftermath was that we all got covered in ash, he growled, and Ulrika winced. I said sorry. No, you didn't. Alright then, I'm sorry. That doesn't make a difference. It should. She stuck her tongue in the air and Muzai sighed, pretending to be annoyed. The whole tribe watched the scene, amused. Okay, pups. Sandalio, she apologized. You know as well as I she didn't mean it, and that she had to throw it in the air unless you guys were put in danger. Ulrika, you should have warned your brother before throwing it though, so he could have gotten out of the way. They weren't the only ones to get covered in ash. Vincent appeared, no less dirty than the other two, and Ulrika smiled. Don't worry, Vinny. I won't tell anyone about you getting gray hair. With that statement many burst out laughing and Vincent eyes his niece, daughter. If you do, I'll tell people about the ramen incident. That made Ulrika grow silent as many wondered about what happened. Sandalio smiled, for he remembered when Ulrika first had ramen. She never ate it ever again after that. Now I'm curious, murmured Axel, but he shrugged it off as he got up. All right. Kiddies, it's time to make up now. He got a mega glare from Vincent and Sandalio and chuckles from others. Feeling nervous from the glares, he put his hand behind his head and chuckled. So, Ulrika. About the sea salt ice cream I promised. She raced past him towards the east. You, okay then? We'll be back in a bit. Don't wait up for us. He hurriedly followed his little sister. I will never get those two's addiction to that stuff. Riku pulled a face and Sandalio smiled in her direction. Fran was shaking her head, but she was smiling also. Humans are a race I shall understand, she simply said, and Muzai agreed with her while the three humans in the area chuckled at her statement. Meanwhile, Axel and Ulrika were chuckling as the younger described Vincent and Sandalio's faces. Vincent was like this, she continued her story as she pulled face into a comical expression, and Sandalio was like, she changed her expression, and Axel grabbed his sides in laughter. No kiddin', Wish I could have been there to see it. Haha. The two continued to talk and laugh as they headed towards the nearest town, which was Tanzaku Town. Man, can't you guys give us a break with all this training? The young girl suddenly complained, and Axel smirked. Hey, we would, but we got a surprise for you that's coming up real soon. He teased, and she squealed. Really? What is it? Ooh, can't you tell me? She begged, and Axel rolled his eyes. Riku, you, Sora, and Yuffie just can't wait for the surprise. Now that I think about it, Vaughn and Jaden are like that too. Geez. He waved a hand, telling her to calm down. Okay, fine, but can you tell me what it is? I promise to act surprised when you show it to us. She pleaded, and then using that technique. No one knows who taught it to her, but many swore Roxas did since she started doing it after they met and because Roxas can do it the best. The redhead winced and looked around, but then he heard whimpering and he looked down and cursed his luck. The dreaded puppy dog look. A curse to those who were weak to its effects. And Axel was one of them. All right, you're gonna get me in trouble for this. He whined as he rubbed his hand behind his head, a habit of his whenever he was nervous, sheepish, or anything of the sort. Remember when we told you and Sandalio that you guys were born in Konoha? But then villagers left you in the middle of the woods one winter night to die, and then Muzai and Tate found you too because of our leader asking them to? Ulrika nodded, confused. Then her eyes widened as she thought of a possibility to where this was going. Axel saw her eyes widen and nodded. They had reached the ice cream shop, cafe, and walked in. Walking up to the counter, they ordered sea salt ice cream, which wasn't a surprise to the woman behind the counter. The two were regular and popular costumers. Taking their ice cream to a booth, they sat opposite of each other and whispered some more. Boss contacted the old man in Konoha, and told him you two were alive. He told him that he wanted you two to learn where you guys came from. It's up to you two though, if you want to be ninja. Technically, even though you came from Konoha, Sarutobi can't force you to serve the village since you were civilians and you were technically kicked out. He made a face at the last two words and ate a piece of his ice cream. The two stayed silent for a while after that. They just ate their ice cream in silence. Finally, Ulrika spoke up. Won't they try to hurt us again? She asked attentively. Axel scowled as he clutched the now clean stick in his hand. Not if I or any of the others have to say something about it. You'll be escorted by yours truly, of course. The other three will have to go somewhere for a bit. Seeing Ulrika's face at that, he quickly added, but they'll return. It's not like they're going away. He mentally smacked himself as she became even more depressed. Look, they're going away for a week, no more. No less. Just a week. Since we're already in fire country, boss ordered us to go check up on one of the power cores in the land. Of course, since we only need 2 to go, Fran and Vincent volunteered since they don't trust Riku to do it. And they don't trust Riku with me alone since I can't really control her hyperness. And then of course, Riku said she had to go see a relative of hers anyway and would go with them. He smiled as she brightened up. Oh, I see. So, Sandalio's stuck with us, huh? She grinned at her best friend and he grinned back. Yep, he replied. Then he grew serious. Remember, not a word. Muzai will tell you later today. So act surprised. Got it memorized? Yep. Do you? She grinned as he got confused. What the hell are you talking about? Don't you dare take my catchphrase. What? But it's so cool. No. Get your own. Do you want me to go back to believe it? Blackmail is a crime. I know. Thank Vincent and Fran for teaching it to me. So? As the two walked back to the clearing, they had settled their argument, with Ulrika ending up pouting and Axel muttering under his breath. The young girl beamed, however, when she saw Muzai. She was currently in a meeting with several of her followers discussing the time the 3 humans would go to Konoha. She was thinking about a few months ahead, while Tate and Blaise, one, argued it was best for them to go as soon as possible. However, they were soon interrupted by 2 people. Hey, Mom, is it true that Axel, Sandy, the said boy growled at the name, and I are going towards Konoha? Axel yelped when several glares were sent his way. Sandalio's eyebrows went up in question. Axel, where did she hear this bit of news? Vincent said, his voice threatening, and Axel smirked. He was training his arm-to-arm combat with Riku, however, like Muzai and the other wolves, they were interrupted. And Vincent was currently pissed off that the surprise was ruined. Well, she conned me into it. He replied, and Vincent raised his eyebrows in question. She conned you into it? How? She used the face. Oh, was his reply. He couldn't argue against that. Ever since Roxas had used it on Axel once and Ulrika saw how easy Axel gave in, too, she started using the face ever since. And while Roxas was still the best at it, Ulrika came in a close second. There were few who could resist the two. And Axel was one of the most vulnerable to the face. It was indeed a most powerful weapon and should be used carefully. Of course, neither Roxas nor Ulrika used it carefully. It was also starting to spread. Axel shuddered, he was in deep trouble. Especially with more people using that face. Demyx attacked him one day with it, then Namine. He also couldn't forget Yuna, Riku, Pinello, and many others. I hate that face. Axel sighed as he looked away from the mirth in everyone's eyes. Although Muzai wasn't laughing. Amused, yes, but she was still pissed off. Dear Ulrika, Sandalio, yes. It is all true. Ulrika grinned, though she dimmed it down when she saw her mother's face. You'll both be leaving with Axel sometime soon. Too soon, she added silently. Oh mother, don't worry about us. We'll have Axel to look after us. This did little to calm down the white wolf. I don't. That's going to comfort her, Ulrika stated. Vincent and Axel pouted. He had his own face that worked wonders also. However, Vincent rolled his eyes while Riku giggled. Hey, where's Aunt Fran? Asked Ulrika as she didn't see her favorite aunt, well, one of her favorite aunts. The Vieira wasn't standing underneath her favorite tree, which is where she looked over the tribe and watched for danger. She had to go report to Bossman. Riku chirped and Vincent rolled his eyes. How the hell are you so hyper all the time? He asked, annoyed, and Riku sighed dramatically. Muzai and the others watched the exchange, amused. Riku and Vincent were always arguing. It was pretty much worse, however, if Yuffie was here also. If the 2 girls were here at the same time, Vincent always managed to hide from the 2 hyperactive teens. There were times when the 2 caught the poor vampire 3 and pulled a stunt that broke Vincent's patience. How the hell are you so grumpy all the time? The blonde retorted, crossing her arms over her chest. Because you're annoying. I'm not annoying, you just don't know how to have fun. Axel draped his arms over Riku's shoulders, grinning. Now, that's just not nice. Vinny is just too old to remember the good, old times, he added, which made Riku burst into a giggle fit. Vinny glared at the redhead, trying to make him burst into flames. Of course, flames probably wouldn't kill the pyro. All right, enough of this. Axel, Vincent's not old. With that, Muzai turned the conversation back to the topic of the twins going back to Konoha. I agree with Tate and Blaise. They should just get the whole thing over with and just go. Besides, it would be easier if we did it this way so they won't get bored waiting around for us to get back from our own trip. Fran suddenly said as she walked into the clearing. She didn't make anyone jump though, to which disappointed her slightly. Why couldn't we just go with you? Asked Sandalio, to which Ulrika was always wondering. You can't go because you're not old enough. Also, it's dangerous where we're going. We're going to a part where civilization hasn't touched and demons roam freely unknown to humans. Vincent said in his calm voice and Ulrika nodded. Okay, uncle, but you know, Ulrika paused, and then smirked at Vincent. The said man suddenly realized how much alike her and Axel were. Konoha is going to be in trouble with two pyros and someone who can't really control them, right? Fran sighed at her niece and just shook her head, hair swaying. They were all impossible. Even Vincent acted like a child. A stoic child, but childish nonetheless. Although, she thought with a secret and small smile, they were her family. She loved them all the same. I give up. I really, truly give up. Vincent groaned as he shook his head. This response made many chuckle, while Riku, Ulrika, and Axel just full out laughed. Back on topic, I finally see that it probably is best that you three leave for Konoha as soon as possible. Sarutobi was told about your survival, pups, and he is most excited to meet you. However, you will not go alone. As you already know, Axel will accompany you to make sure none goes wrong. Now, you will be given the choice whether to remain there and stay as ninja, with certain freedoms of course, or to come back here. Muzai took a deep breath and many could see she in pain at having to let her children go. I give you my permission to stay, if you want to. I will be proud of you no matter what choice you take. After all, from all the rumors we hear, it seems that Konoha has indeed changed. When you meet with him, Sarutobi will tell you all the benefits of being a ninja, and you will also receive certain privileges. When would we leave, Mom? Sandalio asked and Muzai looked at Fran and Vincent. Riku whined about her being ignored, but she was once again ignored. She let her head and arms hang down as she pouted. What about me? The blonde woman asked. We leave the day after tomorrow. So it would probably be wise if they left the same day so we can travel together for a time before we split off. Muzai nodded, her head bowed down as she sighed. Of course. I suppose it's only natural that a mother's pups has to leave the tribe soon to evolve into stronger beings. Lifting her head she looked at her pups and saw that they were teasing Vincent. Well, Ulrika was, along with Riku and Axel. While Sandalio was defending his uncle. Fran also added her input in once in a while, on either sides. You're not supposed to tell anyone about that moment. Cried out Sandalio and Ulrika smirked. She put her hands on her hips. Then narrowing her eyes she waved her right one while talking in a patronizing tone. Oh, of course I said that, but I'm your sister, Sandy. I'm not going to stop humiliating you because of that fact. She laughed, while hiding her mouth and all the humans shivered besides Ulrika. It seems as if she was having a Lerxine moment. Axel shivered, as he remembered how he was molested by her. For, of course she was his friend, but frankly she scared the living crap out of him. Especially when she was angry. Don't ever do that again, was all that Sandalio said, and his twin just smirked while shaking her head, lifting her arms in exasperation while doing so. Whatever you say, bro. She kept smirking her smirk while he just glared, crossing his arms. All the adults just laughed at the two, who glared at the said adults. Kids get no respect, I'm telling ya. The young girl sighed, throwing up her hands and once again shaking her head. What is a world where kids get no respect? I'm going to go train. Was all Sandalio said, and Ulrika pumped her fist in victory. I win. In your face. She did a victory dance, which made many sweat drop. The only white female wolf sighed at her pups' antics. Though they were growing and they were going to leave their mother soon, her pups would always be her pups. No matter where they went, they would be in her heart forever. She smirked and looked as Sandalio left the clearing and Ulrika was chatting with Riku. It would only be a few days and her pups would leave. Closing her eyes, she walked out of the clearing to think. Muzai clearly loved the twins as if they were her own. In her heart, they were her own pups. She raised with and loved them, and she taught them all she could teach them. She knew they would grow up to be fine humans, and they always had a place to come to should they ever need refuge. Muzai was no fool, for she knew the choice the two twins would make. After all, Ulrika and Sandalio wanted to learn as much as they could so they could be the best. And Konoha offered them new techniques, new ideas. Konoha also offered them a place where they could find humans their own age. Sure, they had Riku, Vincent, and everyone else. But there were hardly anyone their age. Sure, they had met Haku once, but he continued on with Zabuza. Blair was their age also, but she was hardly ever seen to visit because she always got grounded. Well, there was also Macaw, Soul, Death the Kid, Blackstar, Tsubaki, Liz, and Patty, but they all had death stuff to do. Toshiro also worked in the whole death business and could hardly visit because he took his work seriously. Whenever they could visit though, they all seemed to make the best of it. Muzai sighed. Of course, if her pups agreed to be ninja, which was highly possible, then she would hardly ever see her pups. They would be so busy. And with them gone, all the humans would have no reason to visit. She had her tribe, but she grew used to humans' presence. Without them, she felt like she would be abandoned. Anything wrong? Came a voice and she saw Fran, who she could easily talk to. They were now quite far from the camp, although her and Fran would still be in reach in case they sensed trouble. Letting out a whimper, the white wolf told the Vieira all her worries. Fran shook her head and smiled at her friend. Even if they would agree, they can always visit whenever they wanted to, in their spare time. And though humans are strange, the village wouldn't be as cruel to strangle them with missions. You will also always have us as your friends and human family. We would visit you, even if this place came to be boring. Muzai growled playfully. Boring? This place would never be that. I can assure you. Do you forget all the misadventures we've had? Bandits stumbling in on our turf, the twins being kidnapped, wolves going berserk and trying to take over the pack. I'm telling you, it will never get boring. The gods do love to play with our fragile lives, I do admit. Fran looked up at the slowly darkening sky, signaling a storm was approaching. Can you sense it? Is that another reason why your mind is plagued by worries? Muzai nodded as she, too, stared up at the sky. There is trouble approaching us, she answered, and her friend nodded. Another war is approaching, death is imminent, chaos will behold. I just hope we can round up everyone in time. The afterlife will be teeming with new souls when this is over. If this will ever end. All the past events have led up to this one. It's just another few years before it all finally starts. The end of the world. Sandalio and Ulrika noticed the sudden sadness that came over their mother, so they made sure to spend their last few days at the gathering with her. Instead of training, they all took a break and played games with their mom like they used to when they were little. It lifted Muzai's spirits a little, and when the time came for the group of humans to leave, she was happy. Her pups were growing up, so she needed to stop smothering them. She knew they would be all right where they're going. Besides, despite all the jokes, Axel would protect them with his life. He was powerful, so she doubted her pups wouldn't come to harm. She watched as the humans left, their backs the last thing she saw. Her eyes widened with surprise when her twins turned around to smile and wave. Well, Ulrika smirked and did a little salute while Sandalio smiled at her. Yes, her pups would be just fine. ILOVEANIMEYESIDO. Are we there yet? No. Now? No. His eyebrow ticked and a random bush suddenly caught fire. What about now? The 11-year-old girl hid her smirk, along with her brother. He turned his head for he suddenly found the scenery interesting. Okay, let's play a little game. It's called Keep Your Mouth Shut Until I Say Something. Another bush caught on fire. Poor bush, Ulrika almost burst out laughing, but she held in it. Instead, she sighed dramatically and looked around, moving her head. After a few minutes of silence, Axel heard a snicker from Sandalio. He raised an eyebrow but didn't say anything. Ulrika looked tentative, looking as if she wanted to say something. The guardian looked at her, surprised. Ulrika was anything but hesitant. What? He asked cautiously, knowing he was heading into a trap. Are we there yet? The whole forest would have burst into fire if Konoha's gates had not appeared within view. Axel sighed with relief and got down on his knees as he looked to the sky. Praise the almighty fire gods. Yes, we are here. Other travelers looked at the group as a child was rolling on the ground laughing, another was smirking, and what looked to be the adult was going insane. They hurriedly passed the odd trio, leaving them to their antics. Finally, let's go see that old man Mom told us about. Ulrika got up and dusted herself before racing towards the Fates. The two guards noticed the kid race past and went to get up when two more people passed by, chasing after the girl. Of course, the tallest one stopped and handed them papers. You're here to see the Hokage?" asked one guard, and Axel sighed. He was tall, in fact he was taller than most people they knew. "Duh, that's what the papers say, got it memorized." With fluid motion Axel took the papers back and walked into Konoha. The strange man grumbled to himself as he lost sight of the kids. "Great, just great. Now I lost him. Muzai and the others are going to kill me." When he was out of sight, two Anbu jumped down in front of the two guards. Nodding to each other they sent a note to their leader and chased after the pyro. Two more Anbu went to find the kids. "Hey, Ulrika, we're supposed to stay with Axel." Sandalio groaned as his sister just laughed and raced ahead. He was apprehensive as they were gaining attention on the somewhat silent streets. "Ulrika, calm down, Fuzzy. Let's check this place out while we're here," she shouted back to him, and her voice bounced off the buildings. Sandalio winced, as he realized how loud they were being in the village. And he was never loud. He didn't like to bring attention to himself. "You're going to make me repeat words that I really shouldn't be saying at my age," he whined, and his twin laughed. He chased her down to a park and she stopped finally. She saw a group of kids who were staring at them as if they were nuts. "Ulrika's the crazy one. Crap, can't swear, can't swear." Sandalio almost cursed but he didn't and he sighed with relief. However, he tensed when one of the kids suddenly appeared in front of him. "You know, you both are weird." The kid grinned and a white dog that was on his head barked in agreement. "I take it you both aren't from around here, are you? How'd y'all figure that one out, genius? Your partner is so adorable. I take it you both fight together, right? He's just not there for show, right? Right?" Ulrika fawned over the white puppy and the boy looked proud, yet insulted. "Yeah, we do fight together. Akamaru and I go everywhere together. By the way, I'm Kiba." He held his hand out to Ulrika and she paused in her fawning to shake his hand and grin at him. "Hey there, teeth. I'm Ulrika, and this here is my twin, Sandalio. But you can call him Sandy." She smirked at her twin, who growled. "No, people may not call me Sandy. Cannot swear, cannot give in to temptation." Ulrika and Kiba both sweat dropped as the young boy started to meditate. "He's weird. Oh, hey. Who are your friends?" The young girl blinked as she looked over her shoulder at the other group who stared at them. "Oh right. The boy with the pineapple hair is Shikamaru, and the well-muscled boy is Choji." He held his hand to cover one side of his mouth as he sighed whispered to her, "Just don't call Choji fat and you're good." Ulrika's sweat dropped but nodded. The only girl is Hinata, she has social issues, and the other spiky-haired boy is Shino. Ulrika nodded as she waved to them. "Hey, don't you guys want to join us over here?" she shouted and Kiba winced. She noticed this with her peripheral vision, and she also noticed how the others looked away, uncomfortable. Shino nudged the glasses on his eyes, a sign of hesitation and uneasiness. She decided to ask what this was all about. "What's with the flinching, peeps?" she asked and Kiba looked at his friends. "Well, you guys aren't from here so you wouldn't know." Ulrika's eyebrows shot up and Sandalio stopped his meditating to listen. 11 years ago 2 babies, twins, were born. However, at the same time a great demon attacked the village. It was the Kyuubi, and it was crazy powerful. The twins glanced at each other and they both knew where this was going. He was telling them about them, Ulrika and Sandalio. The 4th Hokage had no way to stop it except by doing one thing: to seal the demon away. So, he took his own 2 children and sealed the demon away in the older, the boy. However, when the village was told about this by the newly instated 3rd Hokage, because Minato-sama had perished during the sealing, the villagers were angry. Pissed off to be exact. Sandalio gasped and while his sister rolled her eyes, Kiba turned to him. "You cussed." Ulrika giggled as her twin's eyes grew big and Kiba scoffed. "Yeah, so? Anyway, back to my story. Many made attempts on the babies' lives because they believed that the boy was the demon itself, and that his sister was just as evil. However, no matter what, no one succeeded to finish off the babies. Until one cold winter night, an elderly couple burned down their orphanage in order to blame the babies, and a mob succeeded in kidnapping the twins and left them in the middle of the forest to die. There was anger in the boy's eyes, and Ulrika smiled. Although, they didn't really succeed because that day everyone learned who the twins were. Also, that day the Hokage changed. He cracked down hard, and nothing has ever been the same since. That's why it's so quiet. People are too afraid to draw attention to themselves. Surely even outsiders know this? Ulrika and Sandalio glanced nervously at each other. Rubbing her head sheepishly, Ulrika answered for both of them. Well you see, she was interrupted by a loud voice. Ulrika, Sandalio. Damn it, you two are so dead. The Konoha children turned to see a very tall man stalking towards them. Ulrika eeped and hid behind her brother, who shook his head. Damn it, I have been stalked by creepers the whole time to find you two, and I'm getting sick of it. Now, we are going to the Hokage to clear this whole thing up. He paused in grabbing the twins and stared at the other children. Damn, you make friends fast. Yeah, hold on, Axel. Ulrika slipped out of his grip and turned to Kiba. Thanks for telling us that story, but we had to go now. We'll see you guys soon, I hope. She winked in Kiba's direction, who blushed. The trio made quite a sight as Axel finally let go of the twins and the two children drew eyes. While one was annoyed and silent, the other was cheerful and waving at everyone. Why are they all staring at us? It almost seems as if they think we're weird. She chirped happily and her brother groaned. You are weird. This is embarrassing. Axel, can't you just tell her where to find the tower and we go ahead? This is embarrassing. Axel sighed, but then smirked. Waggling his finger at the young boy, he replied with sarcasm. How is it embarrassing, my dear friend? Aren't you enjoying all the attention, now? Knowing full damn well the older twin wasn't. Sandalio groaned and shook his head. You two are impossible. Why couldn't Vincent or Fran be with us instead? He muttered, and the other two ignored him. Ulrika continued to be hyper the whole way, watching how the villagers were reacting and hiding her actions behind her hyperactivity. She studied the village, various shops, and detected several presences following them. She smirked at her brother's remarks, and no one except her own group knew the wiser what she was really doing. They reached the tower, which was stationed in the middle of the village. Ulrika smacked her face at the obviousness of it. Well, isn't that just stupid? Your boss doesn't make your guy's HQ obvious where enemies can charge in and tear it down. He hides it in plain sight. Seriously, when we meet this old man I'm gonna give him a good word or two about this. Axel and Sandalio's sweat dropped as they walked upstairs to get to the Hokage's office. When they finally got there they saw a long hallway and they were pointed to the Hokage's office by the secretary who was stationed at the entrance of the staircase. I see you have an appointment with Hokage-sama. Let me walk you to his office. The young woman got up and Ulrika started chatting with her. You're really pretty, miss. The young woman blushed at the compliment and thanked her. Encouraged, Ulrika started talking about her about random subjects. The secretary noticed they had arrived and told them so, cutting the conversation short. The young woman smiled kindly at the young girl and held out her hand. It was a pleasure talking to you, Ulrika. Ulrika grinned while her brother rolled his eyes and Axel smirked. When the woman was out of earshot, Axel made a witty comment which sent Ulrika laughing. I see you're making friends left and right, while your brother remains antisocial like Vincent. Sandalio glared at his guardian who just smirked and knocked on the door. They heard a weary voice telling them to come in and they did so. They saw an old man sorting through papers, not really paying attention to the group. If you're here to bribe me again I will call in my Anbu team. Now please Lee. The Hokage finally looked up and his eyes widened. Oh sorry, I thought you were different people. Axel muttered something sarcastic to which the old man ignored. Come in and have a seat. He waved his hand to 3 chairs in front of his desk. Axel took the middle seat while the girl sat on his right, the boy sat on the left. Sarutobi studied the people in front of him before speaking. The man in the middle was tall, in fact taller than most people he knew. His hair was long, red, and spiky. His emerald eyes stared back, also studying him and were calculating. However, they were also lazy. He had 2 purple tears under each cheek. He wore a plain black t-shirt, jeans, and black boots. He also had on black gloves covering his hands. His eyes turned to the young boy, and he couldn't help but feel as if he saw him somewhere before. The young boy had spiky blonde hair that was short, and had random red streaks running through it. Red spikes fell in front of his sapphire eyes, which were studying him. He felt unnerved, for the boy looked no older than 11. The boy also wore a black shirt and black pants. On his feet were black boots, much like the adults. He was sun-tanned, which was strange because the other 2 were peach and pale. The tall one being peach-skinned, while the girl was healthily pale. "Are you done staring at us, old man?" she asked, and her 2 companions sighed. The old man raised an eyebrow, slightly amused and partly annoyed. It amused him because she acted like his grandson, who was disrespectful already because of his now only son Asuma. However, he was annoyed because outside of his family, no one dared talk to him like that. He was about to speak, but the tall one spoke up, holding a hand up to stop him. "Hold on, Hokage. I believe you have been waiting for us. Or have you forgotten in your old age?" Tired of the insults, he was about to order guards to escort the group out when his eyes widened. "Wait, you mean you are the—" He drifted off, not able to say it, and tears came to his eyes as he realized why the children looked so familiar to him. They looked like a mix of their parents. "Well, old man, we're who?" The girl smirked and Sarutobi sighed. He lit up a pipe and stuck it in his mouth. "You 2 are the same 2 children from 11 years ago, correct?" he asked, and the children nodded. The old eyes turned to their caretaker. "I assume you're their caretaker?" he asked, and Axel held out his hand. "It's Axel, got it memorized?" "And yeah, but only one of their caretakers." Sarutobi raised his eyebrows at that, and the boy, who he knew of as Naruto, responded. "We were also raised by wolves, and although Axel was one of the 4 who raised us up as humans, others came by to help us train and grow. Our mother is Muzai, head of the Hell Wolf tribe, which is a branch of the Demon Wolf clan." The old man's eyebrows really shot up at the last bit, and Ulrika laughed. "Oh, we're not evil, old man, simmer down." She laughed at the last part, and Sarutobi chuckled also. "Demons are just like humans. You got some rotten eggs in every bunch. Anyway, Mom said you would give us the choice whether or not to be ninja in your village." She started off the discussion, taking charge, and the old man chuckled again. "She said that you would also give us some freedoms, but what are they exactly?" she asked, and the old man nodded. "She is correct. If you should say yes, I would give you your parents' house, which is in a part of the surrounding forest. There you would have privacy and freedoms. Also, in your free time, which I admit few ninja barely have, you would be allowed to visit your family. Sometimes if you request it and have been doing good on your missions, I will also permit you vacation time, as to put it." The girl, whom he remembered as Yasuragi, pondered this and snapped her fingers. "Couldn't we move our family and the other 3 humans here?" she asked, and Naruto groaned. "Yeah, that's a real smart idea, Ulrika. Let's move a bunch of demons here to a place that has been attacked by one not too long ago. Not to mention they'll probably be hesitant about us because of Gakido being sealed in me." "Ulrika, why are you called that?" Sarutobi interrupted, and the 2 children turned to look at him while Axel sighed. Dude, that's what Mom named us. She told us our original names when we were like 7, and gave us the choice whether or not to take up those names or our wolf tribe names. I'm Ulrika, and my brother is Sandalio. However, you're correct in thinking that our names are also Naruto and Yasuragi." Ulrika answered before her brother could open his mouth. "Oh, I see. It appears I have a huge announcement to make to the village." The old leader sighed as he took out his pipe. "I trust this village because for many years I had taken to wiping out all those I thought unworthy. Of course, not one object is perfect. There are still those who are now too afraid to speak their minds. However, the major population of Konoha I do have faith in. And this time, it's not misplaced. Ulrika, I agree to your idea." The girl nodded, grinning. "Then I agree to being a ninja, old man." Her twin nodded, agreeing to the idea also. "Hey, what am I? Chopped liver? You can add me to your arsenal, too. However, I'm not a tool, and I don't expect to be treated as one. My loyalty lies to the twins and to my boss. He's the one who contacted you, remember? Anyway, he ordered me to become a ninja should the kiddies decide to play ninja." Sarutobi nodded. "Of course, Axel-kun. Thank you, and I understand completely. Now, time to spread the news. Come, I will tell my Anbu to assemble the town. Ulrika grinned and raced out the door. Then, when she realized the others were too slow, she poked her head back in and frowned. If you guys are going to be so slow, I'm going to tell the whole village myself. Sarutobi chuckled at the girl's personality and nodded. Don't take her threat lightly. She will, too. Axel grumbled and Sandalio muttered under his breath something the other two couldn't hear. The three males hurried to the stadiums, which held the final exam for the Chunin exams. Ulrika was jumping from foot to foot, excited. I can't wait. I wonder if we'll see the others. I wonder what they'll think. Who cares if they don't like us, they'll have to deal, Sandy. She asked her brother, who was contemplating whether or not to smack her upside the head. You know, I don't think we should give you coffee ever again, he responded finally, and he stared as more and more people were arriving at the stadium. The four people were standing in the center where everyone could see them. What? But it's so good. I can't believe I've never had it before. Axel, how come you never introduced coffee to me before? She turned to the redhead who smirked. He crossed his arms and leaned against the wall. Because, you're hyper enough as it is. Crazy, too. Sarutobi watched the exchange with amusement. Soon, the large area was halfway filled with ninja and villagers. Ulrika, and grudgingly Sandalio, were amazed at how large the stadium was and at the population of Konoha. Of course, the population would have been larger had it not been for the mass trials. Sarutobi raised his arms and it gradually grew silent. My people of Konohagakure, it is time for the ultimate test for whether or not you are truly loyal. People whispered at this, growing nervous, and silenced when the Hokage began to speak again. We are here to welcome two lost citizens of Konoha, lost to us 11 years ago. Meet. Hey, it's Kiba and them. Hey, can you hear me? Hi. Suddenly, Ulrika interrupted the Hokage and waved frantically to where her new friends were sitting. Is she crazy? You can't interrupt the Hokage. Who are these people? Here comes another killing. Those poor fools. Naruto and Yasuragi Namikaze. The Hokage let silence fall before saying the two names. He figured it would add to a dramatic effect, and it worked. People suddenly started cheering, roaring, and were just plain confused. And even though the Hokage held up his hand to silence, the crowd didn't shut up. Hey, peoples, the Hokage needs to say something, shouted Ulrika, who then waved to everyone when they stared at her. Hi, how are ya doin' folks? She winked once more at Kiba, who blushed from the attention. When the girl had shouted to their section, they were thinking of hightailing it out of there, but then the Hokage had said who they were. Frankly, Kiba was pissed off that she didn't tell them who they were. Sure, they might not have believed her, but, still. Yes, thank you Ulrika, or Yasuragi as some may call you. Anyway, Sarutobi coughed into his hand to get started. Everyone, listen to me please as I tell their story. And no one speak till I am finished. With that, the Hokage told the story of the twins, with Ulrika inputting her own story once in a while. However, her two companions shook their heads at her antics. After he was finished, there was complete silence and Sandalio almost winced. Despite his calm appearance, he was nervous as hell inside. Wasn't it the Hokage's choice to reveal that Kyuubi was sealed in him that made the villagers pissed off? His eyes widened. I did not just swear. No. Ulrika looked at him weirdly and walked to him and poked his forehead. Sandy? She asked him, although she was hesitant. I swore, I just cussed. He whined as Axel and his twin winced. Swearing was a sensitive thing for the poor kid. Youch, she replied and Sarutobi looked at the poor kid who was rocking back and forth. Is he all right? Ulrika waved her hand and shouted loud enough so the villagers could hear. It was not to humiliate her brother, it was to calm down the villagers and her bro understood. Yeah, but he has this thing with swearing. He was brought up not to, even though Uncle Sid tried to get him to once, but yeah, he doesn't like to cuss, and apparently he just said his first cuss word. I'm so proud. She grinned at her brother who glared at her. Shut you. It's not funny. Uncle Vincent and Aunt Fran are going to kill me. Let alone Mom. He complained and those who heard chuckled. Oh, I've been swearing since I was 3. She'll get used to it. Ulrika waved off his concerns and Sarutobi's eyes bugged as he looked at Axel, who was leaning against the wall with his eyes closed. Yep, it's true all right. Sid was visiting, he swore, and Ulrika mimicked. Since then, Sid's taught her a whole lot of swear words, although a lot of them are forbidden. Sarutobi winced and Ulrika laughed as her brother continued to whine. It was going to get more interesting here, the old man could see that. Konoha was never going to be the same. He also saw that many villagers, although they were nervous, he could see they were trying not to judge. They remembered last time they judged too harshly on innocent children. He smiled thinly and nodded. Yes, he was proud of his village now, for they passed. Hey, Kiba, you should come down here. You too, Shikamaru, Choji, Hinata and Shino, Ulrika shouted as she waved to the group. The Inuzuka sighed as Akamaru laughed at him, though to many it sounded more like coughing. He got up and his friends followed him, though Shikamaru complained about it being troublesome. Hey, guys, how are ya? She asked and laughed when Kiba glared. Oh yeah, well, I just thought you wouldn't believe us if we told you guys. Besides, Axel dragged us off, remember? Kiba laughed as he remembered. Oh yeah, so, what names do you go by because I'm confused as heck. This time it was Ulrika's turn to laugh. We go by our tribe names, the one mom gave us. Ulrika, which is me, and Sandalio, who is Naruto. She answered and her friends, OHED. I see, so what's it like living with demonic wolves? Shikamaru asked out of curiosity and the others listened. Well, it's fun of course. The Hell Wolves are one of the nicest demon clans. They're really powerful, too. So if Konoha ever needed any allies, you've got us by your side. Which is a good thing, though, because we're going to be ninjas. We have to go to the academy, though. Ulrika sighed dramatically, as she copied what Riku did and hung her arms and head and then swayed. It's gonna be boring, I bet. Really? It's a good thing you got here when you did, because no one can enter the academy half-year. Choji exclaimed, and Shikamaru groaned. Troublesome, that's all this is. Ulrika blinked, it's the first time she's heard the two speak, besides Shikamaru's question earlier. Well, Spikes, you don't know the half of it. She giggled and Axel groaned. You're seriously gonna need to chill, OMG. I did not just say that. And I did not just say OMG. What the foo? Axel started to freak out and Ulrika giggled as she clutched her sides. Wow, Axel, are you turning into a girl? She got a glare and she eeped as she hid behind Sandalio, who blinked. I'm not the one who made him angry. You deal. With that, he sidestepped and Ulrika ran for her life as Axel chased her. Her new group of friends turned to Sandalio for answers, as did Sarutobi. They're immature. As long as you don't give Ulrika coffee and make Axel angry, you're pretty much safe, kinda. The two do get hyper. Ulrika's giggles carried through the stadium as did Axel's swearing. The Konoha natives wondered what the hell they were getting into. Sandalio-san? Are they going to hurt each other? Whispered Hinata, and the shy girl blushed when the boy turned to her and smiled. Oh, probably. But it's all good fun, because even though they seem like they're playing, they consider it training also. They both, well, I'll let you guys figure it out. He chuckled at some inside joke, and Sarutobi wondered what the hell was so funny. Deciding he'd ask Axel what the two children knew later, he dismissed the village and looked as Axel finally caught Ulrika and slung her over his shoulder. Even though she was caught, she continued to giggle as Axel reached the group. Upside down, she waved at the others. Hey, how's it hanging? She giggled at her own joke as Axel and Sandalio groaned. That was lame, even for you. Sandalio shot at her and Ulrika grinned widely. You should know lame, mister, I don't cuss. Sandalio blushed, though it was very minuscule and light. Axel and Ulrika saw it though and they both laughed. You guys are both jerks. Don't you guys have somewhere else to be? I don't know, doing something useful with your lives? The young one shot back, and Axel set Ulrika down. Wartime now, buddy. Got it memorized? He asked, and before Sandalio could reply, the pyro continued. At least Ulrika and I know good food, vegetarian. Who eats only plants? I do, you pyromaniac. Considering I have a demon inside me who's eaten humans before, meat just doesn't settle with me. Oh, that's an excuse. Ulrika entered as her head cleared from the blood rush. Gakido only ate evil humans. It's still gross. Not at all. Besides, it's animal meat you're eating, not eating. Got it memorized? At least I'm not a girl. OMG this, OMG that. Sandalio smirked as his twin fell to the ground, laughing and Axel growled. Okay, you little twerp. Who's the one who cries every time they see a sad movie? Deciding to just laugh, Ulrika stayed out of the now verbal war between Axel and Sandalio. I'm just sensitive, that's all. Sensitive? You always cry during the happy ones too. Especially if it's a chick flick. You're just jealous because girls like me, not you. Ulrika grew blue as she was laughing too hard at the insults they flung back and forth. Shouldn't we stop them? Asked Shino, as the others, except Sarutobi who was also amused, were wide-eyed. Nope, it's funner this way, Bugs. Yes, I know, more fun, is the proper way to say it, but funner is more fun to say. She interrupted Shikamaru as he was about to correct her grammatical mistake. Troublesome. This is going to be a drag, I can just tell. He smirked a little bit, which Ulrika noticed but didn't comment on. All tight, you two. Children, it's best if you return to your homes for now. You can talk to the twins when they settle down. Axel, Sandalio, Ulrika. It's time I showed you where you'll be living. The three nodded and the four started to walk away. Then Ulrika turned around and grinned, saluting them. Sandalio just waved without turning around. Is it me, or does that Sandy guy seem a whole lot like an emotional Sasuke? Asked Choji, and Kiba started laughing, with his puppy following his lead. Things won't be dull with those three around. Troublesome people. Shaking their heads, the kids returned to their homes where they discussed the current events that had happened. Meanwhile, Sarutobi led the trio to a mansion that was hidden from view in the forests surrounding Konoha. It wasn't such a long walk, but at the same time it was hidden from prying eyes. Sandalio and Ulrika gasped as they saw the size of their new house. It's huge, holy crap. Axel nodded, but he wasn't that impressed. HQ was larger than this. Though, for human standards, it was pretty big. This is where you three will be leaving. Next week, when school starts, I'll send someone down to escort you. No need to be late on your first day, right? He asked, suspecting that Ulrika might use the excuse that she's new to be late on purpose. Ah man, they're foes that plan. Spoiled by an old man. She whined, and Sarutobi smirked. His instincts were always right. Right, let me show you around. This here room is the front room, as you can see. The room where the front door was where they were currently at. The walls were a burnt red, and the furniture were dark brown, with light cream-colored pillows set on them. There was one couch along one wall, a fireplace on the opposite wall, and two chairs one either side of the couch. A circular stone coffee table was placed where people could place their cups and other objects. On the same side of the door, there was a big bay window where you could see the wildlife and trees. Over the fireplace was a picture of a young man with bright yellow hair, sapphire eyes. And standing next to him grinning was a young woman with long, straight red hair and green eyes. Her stomach was slightly big, showing she was pregnant. Is that R? Ulrika began as others turned to see what she was staring at. The Hokage nodded, smiling sadly. Yes, Ulrika. The man in Minato Namikaze, and the woman next to him is Kushina Uzumaki. Yours and Sandalio's parents. There was a silence as Sandalio and Ulrika studied the picture of their human parents. No way was that picture going to be brought down. There was a shelf over the fireplace with various trinkets and pictures. Deciding to let them look through them later on, Sarutobi continued the tour. From the front room, we enter a hallway. Going straight you enter the living room, social room. Stopping here, this is just a storage closet. You place your coats and stuff like that here. The three doors on this side are two bedrooms with a bathroom in between. The other door on the left-right side is a public bathroom. They continued through into the living room where they saw it was a larger version of the front room. There was more space to gather a large crowd, and there was a large light and dark brown rug in the middle on the wooden floor. In front of the fireplace was a dark red rug, matching the walls. There was a large opening on the wall opposite of where they were standing, and the three newcomers saw that it led at the kitchen. As you can see, that there is the kitchen. You can look at it later. Do any of you cook? The three shook their heads. The one who cooks is either Vincent or Riku. They forgot to teach us how to, though. It's kinda funny. Ulrika scoffed. Oh, I see. Don't you cook, Axel-kun? Before the redhead couldn't reply, Sandalio interrupted. Last time he tried to cook, the smell itself made many fall unconscious. The one brave person who dared to eat it ended up puking his guts out for the next 7 days. Literally. Axel grumbled but didn't deny the accusation, which made Sarutobi shiver. Okay, then. The kitchen has a door which has stairs leading to an underground training arena. It has various seals so that whenever you train, a large alarm will tell if someone is here. They will also hide your presence, and other uses. There is a book about this house and its functions in my office. I'll get it after the tour. They continued on and they saw that the backyard was an enclosed garden with various plants and flowers from all over the world. Birds and other wildlife flew and ran around, and Ulrika sighed with happiness. "Do you garden, Ulrika-chan?" The girl nodded, grinning. "I sure do. It's one of the many things that helps me relax." She grinned as she looked at the beauty of the garden. Sarutobi chuckled. "Then you and your mother share a hobby." She planted this garden, creating utopia. In fact, this is what it is called. Utopia. It's an excellent name. Ulrika breathed in all the scents and immediately, the Hokage sensed her calming down. Ah, my heaven. They continued on, and Ulrika was noticeably calmer. There is a stairway here. You can see from the living room the inside balcony. The stairs curve up to that strip, where you can go either left or right. If we go right first, the trio followed the old man as he walked up the stairs and then turned right. They looked down where they saw the living room. It was pretty cool. Up here is the master bedroom and bathroom, which I suppose Axel will get. They walked in and saw the bedroom which large, and had a king-sized bed in the middle. The walls were cream-colored, and there was a wooden slide door leading to the closet. Naturally, it was also large. The bed had no sheets on it, for no one slept here, and there was another door leading to the bedroom. It was here that Sarutobi chuckled at the three reactions. Ulrika became hyper again and started whining how Axel got all the cool stuff. Axel was smirking, and Sandalio's left eyebrow was twitching. Seriously? Who the hell needs a closet in their bathroom? Sandalio asked, not caring that he swore. Yep, you guessed it. There was a closet inside the bedroom. It was open and was in a corner. It wasn't large, but it was still another closet. There was a wall blocking the more private functions of the bathroom, and walking in they saw that there was a jacuzzi bathtub and a separate shower. The toilet was in a corner by the wall blocking the view. Damn, Axel, you wanna let me have this part of the house? Ulrika asked and Axel smirked. In your dreams, kid, was all he said as Sarutobi lead them to the other side of the balcony. There were 8 rooms on the left side. One was a rec room where there were various game systems, a pool table, hockey table, and dance machines. A large screen TV and stereo were there also. The walls were orange with blue smudges to dim the brightness down. The floors were wooden, as were all the floors. 3 more rooms were bathrooms. The other 5 rooms were bedrooms, pretty much the same size. The only thing wrong with my bedroom, Axel paused, stopping to smirk at the kids, are the colors. I'm definitely changing the scheme later on. I love this house. Fran will love it too, because it's not destroying nature, and because of the garden. Ulrika chirped. With that she raced down the stairs. I'm going into town. However, Axel's voice stopped her. You should get some rest. We have a lot of cleaning, painting, and shopping to do tomorrow. Sarutobi raised his eyebrows at the last part, but didn't comment. He felt the redhead was a little sensitive about those things. However, Ulrika didn't feel the need to hold back. You are such a girl, she shouted as she raced Sandalio to claim their own bedrooms. I call this one. Ulrika raced to a bedroom that had its own bathroom. Sandalio claimed the next bedroom that had its own bathroom. I'm not a girl, Axel shouted back. Okay. You have an anorexic, feminine figure, you like shopping, chocolate, licking ice cream popsicles, and you have dude PMS. Admit it, Axel. However, Axel started stalking towards the girl and the said half-demon ran. Eep. Get back here you little runt. I'm not a runt, I just haven't grown yet. Where did you even learn those things? Well, Sid, Roxas, Sora, Riku and Riku, Lerxine, Macaw and Soul, Liz, Jaden, Chaz, Jesse also commit on it. I'm going to KLL them. Outside, a random bush caught on fire. Dude PMS. Ulrika. Sarutobi had since then left to go finish his paperwork. Finally, the older man caught the half-demon and took her down to the garden where she calmed down immediately. That's cheating. Ulrika breathed in the different sense and Axel smirked. I don't play fair. With that, he decided to search the storage closets for sheets for their beds. Sandalio had used the distraction to slip into the training room, where he gaped at the size. There was a lake with a waterfall in one corner and a mini forest in another. The two separate regions took up the whole room, and the young boy noticed he was standing on a meadow with soft grass. He saw a door on the other side of the lake, but you had to cross the water to open it. It didn't make sense to him, but he remembered when Rukia, a Shinigami, had taught him to control the energy in him. Of course, it was different from hers, but it was the same concept. He wondered briefly if human ninjas had the same energy. If so, they probably had some technique that involved water. He also wondered if they used their energy to walk across it. At first he thought it was an impossible feat, but then he remembered Demyx walking across water, and when Sandalio had asked him about it, the water boy had replied something strange. "It's all about the feet." "Duh, little man," Demyx had said to him. It didn't make sense then, and no matter how many times he stared and concentrated on his feet, it didn't make sense. But it does now. You have to walk across the water sending energy to your feet. But how? I've tried many times. Maybe I'll ask Kiba, or one of them. He nodded his head and decided to ask one of them if they ran into them. If I don't, there's always school. But I have to find out what's beyond that door. His eyes narrowed in determination. Sandalio, get your ass up here. It's time to sleep. Ulrika's voice carried down to the training arena, and Sandalio rolled his eyes. He should have closed the door so he could ignore her. Alas, she'd just come down here, grab him by the ear, and pull him upstairs. She would, too. He turned around noiselessly and walked to his bedroom. He saw that either Axel or Ulrika had found the sheets and made the bed. Rolling his eyes, he went into his bathroom to take a shower. "Night, everyone." Ulrika's shout was heard throughout the house, and Axel replied, "Night, now shut up." "Sorry, Axel." Grr. It fell silent after that, and peaceful. Sandalio, as soon as he hit the bed, didn't realize how tired he was till he suddenly felt exhausted. The bed was comfortable. His eyes lowered, and he fell asleep. "This is fun, isn't I the hay?" Ah! A scream echoed throughout the house, and Ulrika laughed. Her brother shot out of bed. She had thrown freezing water onto him, thus waking him up. "How is it that you're more serious than me, yet I wake up as the sun rises?" she asked him, voice full of mirth. "Ulrika, I'm going to kill you." Ulrika dropped the blue bucket she was holding and ran down to hide behind Axel. "He's trying to kill me." Axel blinked as the two played merry-go-round around his body. Ulrika jerked him, using him as a shield between her and Sandalio. "Will you two stop it already? Damn it, go get ready." "Coffee?" Axel groaned as he sat at the table in the kitchen, waiting for the coffee to finish. The twins obeyed his order, however they kept pushing each other the whole way. Finally, all three of them were ready after 5 hours. Axel, because he wasn't fully awake until he got coffee and food into him, but it actually was styling his hair that made him take long. Ulrika and Sandalio were arguing the whole time, so it took long for them to get ready. And because they were kids, they took forever just to get on Axel's nerves. "You did that on purpose, brats." The pyro mumbled, still half asleep but not able to go back to bed. "Your fault." They all got into an argument as they walked back into the village, ready to go shopping and all that stuff. "All right, first we need to go get more clothes, paints, cleaning supplies, etc., etc. We also need to buy food, but we'll do that after we get finished, or halfway finished, cleaning." "Got it memorized?" "Got it memorized." The twins groaned. Sandalio wanted to train in the arena and Ulrika wanted to go find her new friends. But Axel was firm in his belief that they should all clean the house. It was going to be a long day. Or maybe not. That's all for now. If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments.